If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shegerian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good. Mike, wasn't Mike from General Motors really just inspiring?
Oh, cuckoo, Mr. Robinson. He really was. And I'm just so excited about the whole GM brand because you remember a few years ago, that company was circling the drain.
Hey, General Motors, GM, I don't know. I think GM now stands for Green Motors. They are getting it done.
Yeah, from GM, General Motors, to Government Motors, like it was called. Now, Green Motors, I think you're onto something, John. I think you're right.
And if you liked hearing Mike Robinson over at GM, you should come on back to hear Adam Lewenberg and Ellen Huang from Pitney Bowes. Listen to this commercial, then come on back to Green is Good.
If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shegerian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so honored today to have with us from Pitney Bowes Adam Lewenberg, the Director of Business Development, Green Products, and Ellen Huang, the Director of Environmental Affairs. Welcome to Green is Good.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, happy that you're both here today. You know, this is great when we have two great green leaders on from an amazing and wonderful legendary brand here in the United States, you know, because both of you bring different perspectives to the discussion. So I want to just start off by asking you about this Hall of Fame that you guys are in. You guys were honored with the WasteWise Hall of Fame by the EPA. What is this about? I've been in the waste and recycling industry for years, but we've never gotten any award like this. Tell us how Pitney Bowes got this award.
Well, thank you, John. Back in 1994, the EPA, U.S. EPA, launched the WasteWise program as a voluntary initiative to help businesses and institutions find practical methods to reduce municipal solid waste and increase material reuse and recycling, and to encourage the use of recycling and recycling practices. So that happened in 1994. Pitney Bowes has participated in the WasteWise program since 1996. And because of our commitment and all the recycling initiatives that have taken place within our program and our leadership in the community for recycling, they awarded us, the U.S. EPA awarded us the highest honor in their WasteWise Hall of Fame in 2007. So we are very, very proud of that accomplishment. All of our major facilities all over the world participate in recycling programs, and we have product recycling as well as all of our internal recycling streams from just everyday office products, including office papers and ink cartridges and toners and so forth.
Well, you know, what we just learned on the earlier segment before your segment here on the show, when we were talking to General Motors, they shared with us how recycling has saved them $2.5 billion a year, which goes right to their bottom line. So again, with your message again, Ellen, it's proving that recycling does pay. Recycling is an important part of the sustainability message, and it also leads to greener products with a better bottom line for the companies that engage in recycling.
And we've found that, you know, we've been able to create businesses around this program where we've been able to reuse a lot of our products where, you know, which is in our world a form of recycling by reusing some of the products that we get as returns and being able to offer them to customers. And, you know, we just found huge opportunities in this based on, you know, our typical customers will lease equipment, you know, for a period of time, 3 or 4 years. And then when that lease is up, they typically will get new equipment. So we have just this huge abundant pool of returns that we can make available to new customers and to, you know, run through recyclable, you know, responsible recycling programs.
So, Adam, when you have these returns, the equipment is still good, but it's not the latest and greatest. So you do what with it then? You refurbish it and you make it available to customers at a different price point?
Exactly. And we rebuild these things. You know, when in some cases it is the latest model that we're still producing. But we will follow a factory-certified process to break them down and then, you know, rebuild them, test them, and, you know, mark them to the same specifications basically as new equipment. And so customers benefit because the equipment's less expensive, and they feel comfortable with the fact that they're factory-certified units that they can, you know they can depend on.
So in other words, Adam, recycling, and what we just learned from Ellen and from you, is recycling is really part of the DNA of Pitney Bowes.
Exactly.
Love it. I mean, talk a little bit about design. Also, you have a whole program called Design for Environmental Quality, which is fascinating to us. And I want our listeners to hear, because you've broken it down in a very forensic and very interesting way. Can you give the highlights of your Design for Environmental Quality program?
Absolutely. In fact, when Adam was talking about our product take-back program and how we do recycle and reuse parts and components and remanufacture products, we start with a conceptual design, planning all of the recycling and the end-of-life disposition of the product, way up in the conceptual design. Back in 1991, Pitney Bowes was really a leader in integrating the environmental considerations into the product engineering and design process. So we had what we called the Design for Environmental Quality Initiative, because it was good for the environment, and we thought it was also smart for Pitney Bowes business to consider, for example, different features, compatibility of materials, minimizing the number of different dissimilar material types, so that when the product has lived through its first life with our customers and it comes back into our facilities, it facilitates us separating, disassembling the material and rebuilding the product so that we can remanufacture it as another quality product that can be provided to customers as remanufactured equipment.
So you were talking about then the 6 top lines that we're talking about here, Ellen, are energy efficiency, material intensity, selection, operating efficiency, reuse and recycle, sustainability, supply chain, and eco-efficient solutions.
Right. So over time, Design for Environmental Quality program evolved into different areas, including energy efficiencies and having different sleep modes for our equipment, our material selection. We have materials that are, we have designed out certain materials that may be of concern from a hazardous perspective or regulatory perspective, operating efficiency of the equipment, even the noise levels of our equipment, definitely reuse and recyclability of our machines. Over 95% of the machine is recyclable in terms of commodity materials. When it does finally reach its end of life and we can't give it another generation out in the field, we do scrap the equipment and recycle the equipment, and those products or those parts can be broken down into commodity materials easily and be recycled.
Right.
Supply chain with a lot of focus on slowing down these similar commitments and values throughout our supply chain and providing our customer a eco-efficient solution.
Mike's on his laptop and I'm on my iPad here in the studio. And for our listeners who just joined us, we're real honored today to have Adam Lewenberg and Ellen Huang from Pitney Bowes on with us. And if you've got your iPad or laptop or desktop open in front of you, please go to their great website, www.pb.com/responsibility. On this great site, I see here, Ellen, to further what you're saying, not only do you recycle the wonderful products that you guys make also, but you also, extend your recycling efforts and your sustainability efforts to the content of your packaging of your products.
Right. We do integrate as much of recycled content into our packaging material as possible. As with our products, we minimize the different dissimilar types of materials so that the packaging could be recycled more efficiently and be reused. In fact, the machines that come back into our units, into our operations, we do recover all those packaging and we either reuse them or we recycle all the packaging materials.
Adam, a little while ago you were talking about the reuse. Mike was asking about the reuse issue. Can you share with us new versus old in these austere times? Why would customers want to buy used products rather than old ones? And how does that work at your great company, Pitney Bowes?
So one of the main benefits of these units is they're 30% off or more off the list price of the new equipment bases. So in a lot of cases, we're still selling the same units as new as we're selling as remanufactured. That's one reason. The second is they have the same exact warranties and maintenance contracts as new equipment. We don't differentiate. So from a warranty perspective, if during the first 90 days a unit comes out and it's faulty, we will fix it, replace it, and if that doesn't work, we will terminate the agreement and refund the money back. And on a lease, or most of our customers have maintenance agreements. So with a maintenance agreement, the entire term of the lease is covered by our warranty, as well as 3 years if it's purchased. So because we want to make sure that these units, when they're leaving our facility, are in the same shape as new equipment, because we don't want to have increased service calls in the field. We want a good customer experience out there, and we want our customers to be satisfied with these units, especially customers that are looking at that need lower price points, like government entities or people that are struggling in the economy.
Interesting. So there is a benefit. It's nice to always buy something nice and new and shiny, but there's really not much downgrading if you're buying a well taken care of and upgraded used product. Can you explain though the process? Walk our listeners, Adam, a little through the process of rebuilding them. How does that really work in reality?
Sure. So in the industry, there are small equipment dealers that do a lot of what they might sell rebuilt units, and they're basically Windex down with a couple parts replaced in them. That is not at all what we do in this facility. Before we can even start remanufacturing a specific model, an engineer has to set up a process plan, and that process plan is detailed to the point of what parts need to be replaced, what breakdown levels we have to do, what if there's a scratch over 1/8 of an inch on the covers, what are our requirements for replacing covers, and then a quality testing process that someone has to follow. So after that process has been written up, each unit, when it comes down the line, it's made a decision. The best units go through the process to be rebuilt, and we select those units based on, what kind of condition they come in at, how many cycles they have, how many service calls they've had. And then from those units, the best units we pick, we take them down to the bones and we break them down, fix the needed parts, rebuild them, and then test them to a factory-certified testing process. And that's the reason that we call these units factory-certified, is because we're taking them down to that level. We box them like new and ship them to customers all over the world. And then because we go through that regimented process, we're willing to back them by the same warranties, the same maintenance rate, same maintenance contracts, and the same maintenance costs as new equivalent units. So we're that committed to these products.
So, Adam, would it be safe to say that based on the life of these units that you are refurbishing and making like new, you would also look at where in the life cycle certain parts are likely to need to be replaced in the future, and do you do some preventative that way too, and replace the parts that like 3 months from now may need to be replaced as well?
Yeah, anything we think of that could be a problem during the service history, the normal life of that unit going out in the field, we want to get that fixed or replaced up front, because our goal is to eliminate service calls out in the field, because service calls are annoyance to customers, but they're also costly to us as a service organization. So our goal is to minimize those things and have units that we feel perform to the like-new standards before they're shipped out.
So given that point, then let's segue to the next issue. Then how do you make those choices? How do you decide, Adam, which units get rebuilt and which go to the end of life part of your business?
So we would decide that on a couple different issues. One, the first is the age and the specific model number. We only have a specific list of models that we're physically rebuilding. Older units immediately will get sent to our recycling partner. But newer units or units that are on our list to rebuild, we'll look for the units that are in the best condition, that don't appear to have any blemishes or damages, and then we run them through a testing process where we see, how many cycles have they had on them, how many service calls, are there any inherent issues that we see that's going to make this more difficult for us to rebuild? So we're only basically picking the best of the best units that we're going to rebuild, and the rest of the units follow a different process.
And the different process, explain then the different process for our listeners out there.
Yeah, so what we do is we do a two-step process. The first is we break the units down for parts. So parts that can be used that are in good condition in the units. Let me back up. In the units we don't plan on using, we'll pull parts off those, and those parts can be used. And those are parts that we find that are in good condition and in perfect working order, and we'll use those in some of the rebuilt units, and we use them in service calls out in the field. We feel that if we have perfectly good parts in units that we're not going to use, we should use them as opposed to having to buy new. It's much better environmentally, we feel. And then everything else gets bundled up and sent out to electronics recyclers, where they grind it down and they, make commodity products out of that, and that can be used for future products out in the industry.
So when you send the products over to your recycling partner, what happens then? Does it gets broken down into commodities, then go to smelters?
Yeah, they have a pretty amazing shredding system that will take the units down and break them down into parts, and then separate the plastics and the metals, and break down the different metals into the different commodity parts. So those things can be sold onto the open market.
Got it. And so, what's manageable is, what's measurable is manageable. How many pounds of electronics do you recycle a year? It's always fascinating. Our listeners always want to know, like, the wow numbers. Like when GM said that we recycle, and they walked us through that. Talk a little bit about how many million pounds, like what real impact does Pitney Bowes make?
In the U.S. and Canada, we recycle around, on the average, 6 to 7 million pounds of product every year.
Okay.
And over that, in terms of all of the materials that we recycle throughout our facilities, probably in the order of 20 million pounds.
Wow, 20 million pounds annually.
Yeah, we try to do our best to make sure that we have as close to zero waste as we physically can have.
Wow, that's great. And that is so. When you're choosing the products, Adam, that's an internal process. With the ones that you choose to then refurbish and to resell again, and then you cull out the ones that then go to your recycling partner. How did how rigorous is, and how much time did you and Ellen put into choosing your downstream electronic waste recycling partner, and what were the the criteria that you were looking for in that kind of partnership?
We view our recycling vendor as a strategic partner, and it is very important for us to select someone who shares the similar value and commitment that Pitney Bowes has. So in the electronics recycling industry, there's a lot of practices that, while may be legal, may not necessarily be the most responsible practices. And we certainly wanted to partner with somebody who is beyond legal, who is in the forefront in terms of making sure that they are committed to responsible recycling practices themselves, as well as for us, their customer. So in terms of our process, one of the reasons we selected electronics recyclers, so one of the reasons we did go with electronics recyclers is because they were in the forefront of developing one of the most stringent electronics recycling standards available today, called the E-Stewards. There is also responsible recycling with the EPA, and I think electronics recycler is pursuing both simultaneously, and they are ISO 14001 registered. So it is very important for us from a business perspective that there is a leader in electronics recycling that has the geographic footprint to support all of our needs throughout the country, but more importantly, that they share in our commitment and in our values for responsible recycling practices.
Ellen, that's great because, as we know, a lot of folks in your positions sometimes delegate that responsibility and don't always choose. Sometimes it's the low cost or the no cost recycle is chosen, and we've read and heard and seen images of what the results can be when that happens. I'm on your website here on my iPad, which is really nice. And Mike's on your website and with his laptop. And again, for our listeners out there that have your devices, your electronic devices in front of you, www.pb.com/responsibility. Then click on the environment button because, that's where we're going to go next with this discussion. Your environment section on your website, both of you, Mike and I are very impressed here. We're looking at it and we're we're sort of making faces at each other and holding up little signs. It is really well done. Can you both walk us through, the many different things, the highlights of your environmental programs at Pitney Bowes that you want to share with our listeners, both here in the United States and around the world?
Sure. Some of the things that we have done is we are committed to helping our customers in terms of connecting our customers and their communications with their target markets. And one facet of that, of course, is the mailing aspect, the physical mail. With that, there is paper involved. And so we are committed to using paper and paper products such as cardboard from sustainable forestry sources. We don't have one preference over the other. We are just committed that our paper sources are from sustainable forestry certification programs. So internally, we have procurement policies in place to make sure that our paper sources are from the sustainable sources, whether it has recycled content or not. In addition, we focus on recycling of the paper material. So we do place Recycle Please on logo on a lot of our publications. Also, we are founding members of different initiatives, such as the Green Power Market Development Group, which is a partnership with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency that promotes development and purchasing of alternative energy. So every year we have commitment to purchase renewable energy credits to support green power projects. And so far, our renewable energy credits have resulted in over 16,500 metric tons of CO2 emission reductions.
And doesn't some of your products also offer remanufactured ink or something like that, I've read?
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of products designed to help the environment. So one, we're selling remanufactured ink cartridges and toner cartridges. We also sell software that helps reduce undeliverable addressed mail. So a lot of companies get a lot of return mail because they're not managing the addresses properly. So we have software that up front, before the piece is mailed, can clean those addresses. So it has a maximum deliverability effect of the mailings. And
that
then
is so good.
Finally, we do consulting on environmentally friendly mailing practices. They can help customers both reduce costs and become more environmentally friendly.
Yeah, that is just amazing. We're down to the last minute and a half, unfortunately. And, of course, you both are always welcome to come on back because there's just so much you're doing. It's hard to fit it all in 23 minutes. But we have to start somewhere, and you've had a great start today. Where do you see your industry going with regards to reusing and recycle? The last minute and a half, can you both share your thoughts on that?
Sure, real quick. I think a lot more customers are going to feel more comfortable having remanufactured equipment, knowing that the warranties are the same, and knowing that there's opportunities for reduced costs. More customers are going to be looking for a way not to have to mine new resources to get those products, and to be able to use what's already out there and been built as a way to reduce costs and to help the environment. That is just great. Ellen, what do you think?
Absolutely. When there are limited resources available in this world, we have to look for efficient ways to utilize the materials that are available. And we have seen, both from our suppliers, ourselves, and our customers, having an increased interest in terms of recycling practices, recycling content, and recyclability of materials in the products and services that we offer. Well, again, Mike and I are so honored for both of you to come on the show, and we wish you continued success at Pitney Bowes. It's well-deserved and earned because you guys truly are the green leaders in your industry. Adam Lewenberg and Ellen Huang, you are the dynamic duo of the environmental movement and truly living proof that green is good.
This program will be available for downloading in a couple of days from our station's website, keyword podcast. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week at the same time for another edition of Green is Good.